carpets at home are made out of plastic. A lot of your clothes are made out of plastic. A ridiculous amount of gadgets today made out of plastic.
What the percentage is actually being recycled as opposed to what we think is being 100% recycled.
10% of plastic is recycled at most. It is designed, it is born almost to be trash at the end of its life. Anything plastic that is less than 2-3 inch in each side will not be recycled. So when we start talking about the beauty industry, a lot of things are tiny. Think of every lipstick, every mascara, everything is smaller than this. So they're not being recycled.
We're not yet there in terms of how many people are adopting more eco-friendly, sustainable, conscious fabrics and materials. But I do feel the beauty industry is quite a near second. I don't know if people are able to understand the idea that, these products are something that still goes on our skin and goes on our body in whatever different ways.
There's one material that has transcended that worldwide is metal. Because whether there is an ecosystem or not, people find metal and find a way to recycle it. Because honestly, plastic could not give you this shine, this weight, this temperature in your hand. How come we have gotten so accustomed to this? You know what I mean? I would not drink a nice cup of wine in a plastic cup. Everyone answers a survey saying 80% of Gen Z will pay more for a more sustainable product. Wrong. They actually are not. We would have seen they do. They're going to pay more for a better experience, for a funner experience, and for a TikTokable and Instagrammable moment. So give them that without plastic.
Welcome to Season 4, Episode 3 of the IKKIVI podcast. The reality of plastic use is something we can't escape. It's embedded in almost everything we use on a daily basis. From packaging to clothing, from electronics to beauty products, plastic is everywhere. For years, we've been told that recycling is the solution, but the reality is far more complex. So how big is the plastic problem really? Who profits from keeping the myths around plastic alive? And most importantly, what can we do about it? In this episode, we dive deep into the truth behind plastic waste, unpacking shocking facts, the real impact of recycling, and what businesses and individuals can do to drive change. We'll also explore innovative solutions from plastic alternatives to refillable beauty and discuss how organizations like AORA Mexico and RePurpose Global are tackling this crisis. If you've ever wondered what it truly means to be plastic negative or how to make a real difference in your plastic footprint, this conversation is for you. Now let's get started. Thank you so much, Nour, for joining us today. I am very excited to have this conversation with you. It's a conversation that is talked about a lot across the board in terms of when we talk about sustainability or when we talk about conscious and mindful living and climate change. But it's also a conversation that sometimes we don't necessarily know enough of. We know it's a problem, but we just don't know how big the problem is. And that's something that I'd love to get into in this conversation. For those of you listening, we're talking about the plastic waste problem. And that's something that we're going to talk about. But before we get into that, I'd love for our audience to hear about you, who you are, and what you do, and why is this something that is passionate to you?
Super. Well, thank you so much for having me, Nivi, and hello, everyone. My name is Nour. I currently am the co-founder and CEO of a brand called AORA Mexico, a clean, plastic-free, colorful brand from Mexico. I have a long career in beauty. I'm an engineer turned beauty marketer that spent about 13, 14 years at L'Oreal, so one of the biggest beauty companies in the world, on the innovation side. So everything that has to do with new product development, the future of brands, really, while countries are selling current products, we are working on what are we launching next year, the year after, where are the values, the messaging, the imagery, the claims, the performance of the brand going. And I would say quite early on in my career, I had a bit of an aha moment on CSR, I would say, more than just sustainability, really corporate social responsibility. And both from understanding on one end that our industries create waste, our industries create labor issues, our industries create health issues sometimes through ingredients, ethical sourcing, carbon footprint. I started to learn everything that the scope of everything we do, but also realized at the same time, I'm a lover of innovation, how much white space and innovation there is when you step out of doing the same thing over and over and start thinking, okay, if I what if I had to create this without that ingredient or this material or that constraint? So that's a bit what led me here. And about 4 years ago, I left my job at L'Oreal. It was in New York at the time, and traveled around, and then one thing led to another. I decided to do my personal dream, which is to do a plastic free, extremely colorful brand. And there we are.
Amazing. I'd love to touch upon the brand, but I'd like for us to get into that a little later in the conversation, if that's okay.
Mhm.
Um, but I first wanted to dive into the plastic waste problem, and I've never really spoken to anybody with this kind of knowledge. So I'd love to get into understanding how big the problem is actually. First, let's talk about it as a whole, and then I'd love to kind of tie it into how it's intertwined with the beauty industry and what your understanding of that is as well.
Super, super, super. Okay, let's start with. I mean, look, uh, plastic is one of the most used, I would say, materials out there today. We Let's forget about beauty for a second. Let's think of almost everything that is around us. There's a big chance that your carpets at home are made out of plastic. Your A lot of your clothes are made out of plastic. Uh, Obviously, most of what you have in your kitchen is made out of plastic. You're going for takeout and it's made out of plastic. You are buying a ridiculous amount of gadgets today. The world of consumption is made out of plastic, plastic, plastic. Even today, when we are trying to move away from leather, for example, or whenever you're
Yeah.
hearing vegan alternatives, it's plastic. Uh,
Yeah.
People talk about
PU.
cactus leather or things like that. Yeah, it's like a 1% coating of made from cactus or nopal or something, but under it is plastic. So the thing about plastic is that it's a spectacularly great material. We have to say that about plastic because plastic
Yeah.
has allowed a revolution in the past 100 years. Plastic has allowed us to have materials that are quite durable. Plastic has allowed us to go super fast with a lot of performances, whether it's in clothes or in accessories. Plastic has allowed us to keep food, keep ingredients, keep a lot of things. You have detergents, you have petroleum, you have a lot of things that go in plastic. And the thing about plastic, it was created with specific goals in mind. When plastic was created, it was meant so that you can have that Tupperware that will stay for a very long time. But then we started realizing that, damn, it went everywhere. Like plastic started infiltrating our life in every single way possible. And to the point right now where you're ordering food delivery and there's 10 different kinds of plastic in just the fact that you've ordered, I don't know, a soup, some fries, and a drink. And then you've got the container itself, then the cap is made from something else. Then to make sure the soup doesn't fall, there's another like thinner layer, and then there's a straw, then there's a spoon, then there's a fork. There's a fork and knife, even though all you ordered is a soup. But it's easier for everyone just to give you everything. And then there's a napkin that is wrapped in another kind of plastic. And it's literally like I was looking the other day and we counted with a friend. There was 9 different types of plastic just to deliver my soup. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, by the way, it's crazy already that I'm not even making my own soup, but that's a whole conversation of its own. But like the amount of things that went just to get me a soup in the evening, but the resources that went into just that chicken soup. But
Yeah.
it's when we think about it today, we have gotten to a world where we clearly know we have a big plastic issue. Uh, why is it an issue?
Yeah.
Because the vast amount of plastic is neither recycled nor recyclable. We often put too much responsibility on the consumer by saying that consumers are not recycling or X% of consumers are just putting the wrong material in the wrong bin at the end of life. But in reality, by design, a lot of plastic out there is just not recyclable to start with.
Yeah.
So by design, it is born almost to be trash at the end of its life.
So what
So,
happens to this plastic then if it's not recyclable, if it ends up in a different bin, what happens to this plastic?
it goes to landfills, and that's the best case scenario. So you've got basically, let's talk about trash. What happens to trash? You have, let's talk about household trash, for example. You And household trash, by the way, is the best case scenario because when you think about it, is there's also trash that people are throwing on the street. There's also trash on beaches. There's trash on parks. Like trash has many outlets, and the one that is curbside picked up in people's homes is a great scenario because we actually kind of know where it's going and it's going to a facility. So let's say you have, let's say it's a bit of the consumer is a bit more responsible, or the neighborhood is, or the building is, and that is a privilege. It's important to say that in the world we live in today, it is a very middle upper class thing to have a neighborhood or a building or a state
Yeah.
that has recycling bins, that has a different truck that comes for your organic and
Yeah.
inorganic trash, for your plastic, for your metal. Even as we speak, a lot of us in the world speak about this as if it's like, how come you're not doing this? There's probably more than 60% of the world that doesn't have access to this, where you take your own trash somewhere, no one is coming to pick it up. There's zero infrastructure for recycling. So, first of all, let's start with that. Is that
Yeah.
already, even when we're talking about someone misusing a bin or putting something wrong, that's a very privileged point of view because that really means you have all of that infrastructure behind
Yeah.
you. But
Already.
let's talk about that. So that consumer that has that, you have many plastic things in your kitchen or in your bathroom or in your home, and you're going to put them in either your regular trash or in your recycling bin. The thing is, a lot of people are putting things in a recycle bin that won't necessarily be recycled. So, bottles, for example, are mostly recycled and recyclable. Bottles usually are made out of PET. kind of plastic that allows you to be transparent. Think of your Coca-Cola bottle, think of your water bottle, think of any just juice bottles. Then you've got some more rigid plastics. Think of your laundry detergent.
Mm.
Then you have little jars, for example. Think of your cream. All of
Mm-hmm.
these are, I would say, recyclable. Caps
Mm-hmm.
are not, for example. The problem with plastic is that when it's too small, you cannot take it. Most recycling facilities are called AMRFs, and they usually where your trash ends up. So your trash leaves your house. You have your organic trash, which in it is usually everything that you're not putting to recycle, and that's
Yeah.
going to go to an incinerator or landfill. There's no That's the end of life of that. Okay, that's really considered with no value.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got your recycling bins. So those ones are going to go to what you call a recycling facility, and that recycling facility is going to sort through everything and going to try to get value out of the waste. So most recycling facilities, when everything gets there, they usually start with a magnet that allows you to get metal out because metal has a lot of value.
Mm.
And we often see, if we go back to that topic of the privilege of having sorting and recycling facilities, there's one material that has transcended that worldwide is metal. Because whether
Mm.
there is an ecosystem or not, people find metal and find a way to recycle it. There's a scrap metal system everywhere in the world, whether
Yeah.
you're in any continent, in a rich neighborhood, in an extreme poor neighborhood, people are finding metal because metal doesn't lose value. Metal is
Mm.
recyclable to infinity. Metal is keeps its flexibility, its shine, its properties over and over and over. A can of Coca-Cola in your hand has probably been a can of Coca-Cola hundred of times before, because aluminum is more than 80% circular. It even gets more
Wow.
expensive with time. So you're always going to find someone either very careful about taking metal from a recycling bin or going through trash to find metal because it
Yeah.
has value. So that's the first thing that the recycling facility is going to look for is metal. Number two, everything that's going to drop out is tiny little pieces of anything. So anything plastic that is less than 2, 3 inch in each side will not be recycled. Think
Oh.
about it. So when we start talking about the beauty industry, but also that's why, for example, caps are not recycled of bottles. But think of beauty. A lot of things are tiny. Think of every
Yeah.
lipstick, every mascara, every pencil. Everything is smaller than this. So they're dropping off. They're not being recycled already. And then they're going to start going through whatever they find that is a bigger piece of plastic, and there's a manual sorting that will allow you to choose different plastics. Usually the only plastics that are recycled are the ones, twos, and threes, which are like PET, PP, and these are the plastics that are the very transparent one, the rigid one in bottles, for example, or the one in jars. Another
Mm.
thing that does not get recycled is black plastic or dark plastic.
Oh.
Yes, for many reasons. One of them is that it's actually very hard to scan to understand which material it is. But number two, because recycling is a business. See how we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about metal and it has value? Um, Plastic obviously doesn't have that same value because plastic is downcycled with time. It's never really recycled because
Mm-hmm.
a rigid bottle becomes a soft bottle, becomes a plastic bag, becomes a pellet for a carpet, becomes microplastic. You can
Got
never
it.
go back to that same properties and flexibility and shine and all of that. So keeps getting worse until you're just like microplastic out there in the world. But
Mhm.
the other thing about black plastic is that, look, recycling is has to be a business, because we would have known if the governments of the world care enough about our health and about the environment's health to do it just for the good of society. So recycling is a private business, and private
Mhm.
businesses need to be profitable.
Mhm.
And recycled plastic is only interesting if it's able to be sold and used again and put into our industries in new products. And think about who's buying recycled plastic. I mean, the biggest plastic users or polluters or whatever you want to call it in the world are the big companies. Think of your biggest beauty companies, think of Procter and Gamble, think of Unilever. They're the ones doing, think of Coca-Cola, they're the ones doing the bottles. And you're a big company and you're buying recycled plastic, which is called PCR, post-consumer recycled.
Mhm.
You don't know what you're going to use that plastic for, right? As a big company, you're buying tons of recycled plastic that you're going to give to many of your brands. You're going to put
Mhm.
some in, I don't know, Ariel or Persil for laundry detergent. You're going to take some for Windex. You're going to put some for
Mhm.
Coca-Cola, some for Sprite. You're going to put some for Garnier, some for Lancome, some for Maybelline. The common denominator here, you want to be able to get either transparent or white pellets of plastic. So
Yeah.
guess what happens when you put dark plastic? It's the equivalent of me taking this t-shirt, a black t-shirt, and washing it with that white shirt you just put. I took a black t-shirt and I put it in a white laundry load. It's going to turn out gray, and no one is going to buy gray plastic, because you
Mm.
want to be able to do your brightest pink if you want to, and a great green and or white, and you're not going to do that with gray.
Mhm.
So the industry as a whole decided, let's just not deal with black. Except that at the same time, those same industries have convinced us that black plastic is the chicest thing you can get. Think of every like expensive makeup brand or like black plastic, just like let's make it shiny, the blackest possible. And that's how we end up with another part of plastic that is not recyclable. And the last one is mixed materials. So remember I told you about the one, two, three kinds of plastic
Mhm.
that are recyclable. Well, they're not recyclable if there's more than a material in a product, because you cannot
Mm.
separate them except very manually, and that is just like an excruciating work to be done. So
Yeah.
think of any product, and again, a lot of products are more than one material, um, done non-recyclable whatsoever. So that's a bit gives you an approach overall beyond the industries of plastic and its recyclability.
So we think that if we put it in the recycling bin, and we're only talking about this, right? Because that's something that we can kind of distinguish quite clearly. But if we think that we think we're doing good by putting it in the recycling bin, so what is that statistic that I remember reading somewhere about what the percentage is actually being recycled as opposed to what we think is being 100%
Oh
recycled?
my God, I think like 60% of there's one statistic, but again, we don't have worldwide statistics like this. We know worldwide, for example, that almost 90% for every unit of plastic that is recycled, nine are not. So
Hmm.
already 10% of plastic is recycled at most. That's
Yeah.
really extremely wishful thinking.
Yeah.
And we do know in developing countries that more than 60% of what is put in the recycling bin is not recycled.
Hmm. We recently were having a conversation about how on our streets in India, when there's garbage and nobody's picking it up because I mean, the system is like that, that it's just burned. So, like every week or every couple of weeks, it's just burnt and it's like
Yeah,
gone,
yeah, yeah.
thinking that the trash is gone.
Of course, yeah. Just
Yeah, yeah. So when this sits in landfills, and now it's kind of become such a problem that it's everywhere, right? Like initially in the conversation, you said that we have plastic in every single thing, pretty much, in our homes and in what we use and all of that. Is there an alternate to it now that we've reached this stage that we're in, where we're so reliant on this commodity? Is there anything that's replaceable with? Can we replace plastic with any other material to serve this purpose?
Yes, there are. I mean, is there a magic solution right away? No. There are for every material there is. So think about it. In clothing, obviously we can replace plastic. Like it's no one we don't really need plastic for clothing. Plastic for clothing has just allowed us to do fast fashion, has allowed us to move a lot faster, and has
Mhm.
allowed us to be able to sell t-shirts for $2 on chain.com. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And so there's one side of it, which is fabrics. So yes, there are alternatives to plastic. Are all of them the right thing to do? Maybe not. For example, there are some things like industrial carpets. I personally think they should stay plastic. What a great way to recycle. We're sitting on tens and tens of years of waste. So we also need to do something with it.
Yeah.
It's not going to suddenly disappear. So there are some industries that should keep using it. Um, then you have bottles and things like that. It's going to be very hard to immediately replace plastic. This being said,
Mhm.
there's a lot of new technologies being put out there today. I think one of the most interesting and cool ones is the seaweed industry. There is
Mm.
real work being done on seaweed technologies that are starting to allow for plastic replacements. As we
Mm.
stand, um, there's a lot of studies being put in place to understand how we can replace and what we can replace. So right now, there's already technologies that can allow you to replace, for example, Ziploc bags with seaweed versus petroleum plastic.
Mm.
So that's great. We have not figured out how to do the cellophane that's going to cover a liquid or food, because think about it, seaweed, water, like there needs to be work before it dissolves. Like, can it really protect? But it will get there. There just needs to be a bunch more studies and science behind it. Like anything, we've put a lot of money and resources and time into developing plastic to be fantastic.
Mhm. Yeah.
And there just needs to be the same the same kind of technologies and the same time spent. I mean, we're able to do today crazy things with AI. We're able to do crazy things for space. We're able to do phones and devices that become tiny. Do we really think we're not going to be able to create another material? It's
Yeah.
just so convenient. And the world has gotten both lazy and extremely money oriented. And plastic is a perfect conduit for that.
Thank you for listening to the IKKIVI podcast. If you're enjoying our episodes, consider supporting us by visiting www.ikkivi.com. That's IKKIVI.com. Since 2015, IKKIVI has been thoughtfully curating modern fashion infused with Indian heritage, bringing you hand-picked pieces that blend tradition with contemporary elegance. Our passionate venture celebrates the vibrancy of contemporary design while preserving India's rich craftsmanship, creating stunning and ethical silhouettes you'll love. Our podcast is another passion project driven by our dedication to sharing meaningful stories. It is self-funded and will always be free to listen to. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for being here. Now let's get back to the episode. Yeah, I think that this capitalist problem that we have kind of permeates through all conversations and seems to be the ultimate problem that we all have. And I don't know how, if, and when we're going to be able to pull ourselves out of it, not just as consumers, but also as corporations and businesses, right? So, do you think the change happens from a consumer point of view, from the corporation point of view, from government bodies? Where do you see that kind of change actually taking place?
I mean, in an ideal world, it has to come from everyone because there needs to be a bit more rules from the government, uh,
Mm-hmm.
more responsibility from companies, and more demand from consumers. Consumers should be demanding change. Is it going to happen? No, to be honest. I don't think it's going to happen as simple as that. I think the what needs to happen is for sustainability to become something sexier, something cooler, something more flavorful. Because think about it, there are industries that gone through change, whether it's about the environment or not. Think about the health food industry, okay? I mean, clearly governments didn't set up the rules. We would have known
Mm-hmm.
if they cared. They didn't. Companies didn't really move either. Big companies and consumers, some of them were demanding. Then it became trendy and fun. Then it
Mm-hmm.
became great to have juices and vitamins. And um, we started with horrible vegan burgers. There used to be dry lentil burgers that honestly it felt like you're being punished to have a non-meat based burger. But then came innovative companies that didn't try to sell you that they're saving the world, came beyond burger, impossible burger. The marketing was fun. The the burger was, or the meat in general, it was juicy, it digested better, it almost was like better.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just trying to
Yeah.
save the world from methane or save prairies from cows grazing. It was actually just suddenly became a funner and better thing. Think of the organic movement of food. I mean, the real reason for organic is the soil health.
Yeah.
And of course a bit of health to the consumer, but people started going for organic because the vegetables actually look nicer. You buy an organic strawberry not because it's organic, it's smaller and redder and juicier and sweeter. It actually tastes better, so it's more flavorful. And I think the more and more we're gonna get better innovations, because at the end of the day, a consumer is always gonna buy with a consumer behavior for wanting something better, wanting something different, wanting something that feels and tastes good. We cannot
Mm-hmm.
keep asking consumers to compromise because of sustainability or because of the environment. Companies should innovate so we're getting something better.
Yeah. I feel like, the food movement and the health movement has such a direct relation to how we're feeling and how our lifespan and all of that. So, as a whole, like if you kind of have a bird's eye view of what's happening in the world, we're still at the stage of like personal health and worrying about ourselves and not so much the environment. So, like the food industry and what we're consuming is still like is finally reaching that stage of like organic health. People are talking about it a lot more. And then I feel, I mean, clothing is like not yet, we're not yet there in terms of how many people are adopting more eco-friendly, sustainable, conscious fabrics and materials. But I do feel the beauty industry is quite a near second. I don't know if people are able to understand the idea that, these products are something that still goes on our skin and goes on our body in whatever different ways, which is also the largest organ of our body, and the impact that it
Ah,
has on our internal system is really, really huge. Can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of how that relates to the plastic problem and what you are doing with AORA Mexico and how you are kind of working towards being uh, what is the word, plastic negative.
Yes.
But before we get into the plastic negative, in terms of just your product in the beauty industry and the plastic consumption within the beauty industry.
Okay. Super big question. Uh, I mean, beauty. I would say there's two sides of it. You have the formulation, so what you're putting inside of the product, and you have the packaging. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, from a formulation point of view, I think the industry is going in a great direction because of education and because of what you're saying is that whenever something is really touching health, consumers are a bit more, and it's normal. We are all instinctively a bit selfish, and it feels like, okay, ooh, is this gonna be an endocrine disruptor, or there's cancer studies, or
Yeah.
this is irritating. So we're getting better. There's a lot of regulations. The European Union really leads the charge there. And then
Mm-hmm.
in the United States, there's the clean beauty movement with retailers like Credo, the detox market, even Sephora is getting a bit more clean. So consumers are a bit more aware about this kind
Mm-hmm.
of information. So probably the clean beauty is going in the right direction. It's still 90% of what we have out there is not clean at all. And there's some
Mm-hmm.
crazy ingredients still out there, like talc, for example, that is in a lot of products. It's
Yeah.
literally put on like babies' bottoms still, and it's like extremely proven to be very problematic as an
Is it? Can you tell us more about that product?
I mean,
Or the ingredient?
talc has been like there's asbestos that's been found in talc.
Oh my God.
There's crazy cancer studies. You can like research Johnson and Johnson talc and
Yeah.
you'll see
Yeah.
how they've lost a lawsuit with like $3 or $4 billion worth that they had to pay. Imagine, like,
Yeah.
big companies don't just agree to pay that kind of sum. There wasn't something really wrong, and I mean, they had hidden a lot of studies that were done on their talc provisions that showed extreme contamination. They
Mm.
are the main user of talc in the world, baby powder.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same talc being used everywhere. It's the same talc you're putting on eyeshadows, in blush,
Mm.
in setting powder. I mean, don't buy a talc makeup. Do not. That's the one thing I want to leave you with. Do not buy talc makeup. Okay. Uh,
Done.
it's but then we have packaging. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so in the beauty industry, and that we haven't really updated those numbers, but over 120 billion tons of plastic are done every year, are produced in the beauty industry. And honestly, it's getting worse and worse because think about it, where the beauty industry is going. Open TikTok and Instagram. It's all about more, more, more. Now,
Yeah.
not only you're getting a lip gloss, it has to be covered with 3 layers of plastic and look like something crazy. And it's going to come in a charm made out of plastic. And we're going to even make a travel size for the lip gloss that already is a travel size, by the way. But there's going to be a travel size of that tiny thing that already goes with you.
Yeah.
And then we're going to give you a set of three, and then we're going to give you 19 flavors. And then if you're an influencer, we're going to ship you a giant sized of this and a fridge that goes with it and confetti because we need to give you everything so that you create the crazy content and
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. So it's like it's it's becoming worse. It is not becoming better.
Yeah.
So, and what we discussed before, for example, in makeup, most of makeup is just not recyclable because it's made out of multi materials, because it's too small, because it's black. So that's kind of what we set ourselves to change on Aura. Um, Multiple frustrations. One of them is that beauty is very northern, very white, very European.
Mm-hmm.
Most premium beauty brands are still have the name Paris or New York at the end of them. Think about it. Uh, Number two, clean beauty. We know formulas need to go in that direction, except that clean beauty today feels a bit pretentious. It's a bit
Mm-hmm.
beige. everything is like in a white packaging, and everything is like peach and like your skin tone
Yeah.
but better. Like, why can't it be
Yeah.
more fun? Why aren't we getting glitter? Why aren't we getting silver? Why aren't we getting crazy colors? Why can't it be fun? Why does it just have to be for the very demure? um, it's really done in that quite stereotype of
Hmm.
a mom that, or a 35-year-old woman, usually white North American, that is gonna get pregnant and
Yeah.
discover that there are toxins in ingredients, and that she wants to leave a better world for her child. So she starts getting into sustainability and clean beauty,
Yeah.
but it's that like very Gwyneth Paltrow look. Like, it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
gonna look no makeup. But what about all the rest? Why can't we go out at night with clean beauty? And why can't we do have a crazy red lipstick with green beauty, or with
Yeah.
clean beauty? So that's kind of, we also wanted to disrupt that. And lastly, the plastic waste. And that's why we decided to do a brand that is 100% plastic free.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, we are a brand as well that is plastic negative. We're 9 times plastic negative. So, what does that mean? If you remember the stat that for every unit that is recycled, 9 are not.
Yeah.
Um, well, for every unit of AORA that you buy, we will recover 9 times the amount of the equivalent of plastic products from ocean, beaches, waste facilities, through our partnership with RePurpose Global, which is one of the biggest plastic recovery programs in the world. Big programs in India, by the way. Uh,
Oh,
big
interesting.
programs in India, just because it's, unfortunately, Asia has become the dumping ground of the world.
Yeah.
So it's very important to also start there. The problem is extremely over indexing, indexing over there. So that's what, for us, plastic negative means. It means that not only we are closing the tap on this flood of plastic, but we're also mopping the floors, and we're
Mm-hmm.
also cleaning the trash of the industry. And while doing that, we wanted to do a brand that is sexy, that is flavorful, because people are not going to buy us because we are plastic free. We almost always say, I have an expression I love, which is plastic could never.
Mm.
Um, because honestly, plastic could not give you this shine, this
Yeah.
weight, this temperature in your hand. Um, for expensive beauty products, because honestly, beauty products are expensive. Even the ones that we think now are not expensive,
Mm-hmm.
because they're more entry, like, it's still expensive. It's still, you're
Yeah.
paying, you know what I mean? If you're paying more than $10 for a lip gloss, even that's now the supermarket lip gloss, it's
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
How come we have gotten so accustomed to this? You know what I mean? I would not drink a nice cup of wine in a plastic cup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost no one will anymore. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I wouldn't
Yeah.
have a nice meal on a plastic plate.
Yeah.
Why are we accepting to get these super nice, like $60 Chanel powder in a little black plastic thing that weighs nothing, that is trash from
That is
design?
just hard to feel.
Honestly, so it's also about us deciding we can do better than plastic.
Hmm.
Not about settling or compromising, but there's a lot more beautiful objects and design than plastic.
I love that. I love that you say that we can do better and we can choose better because we want better from our lives personally as well. So why are we settling? We're not,
Exactly.
I feel like we're not questioning it enough,
And
you
t-shirts,
know?
for example, like, if you wear polyester t-shirts, you can wear the best deodorant in the world. You're not going to smell good by the end of the day. It can
Exactly.
also feel like super hot and
Yeah.
doesn't feel good as well. I think it doesn't breathe as well. It doesn't wash as well. It doesn't
Yeah.
keep as well. You have to iron it a lot more. Like, there's so many. When we start thinking about it, is that plastic's actually not that great. There's stuff
Yeah.
where it's really great at. It's going to be very hard to replace an amazing Tupperware.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
like, but or or some specific things like piping, but there's a lot of things we consume every day
Yeah.
that plastic cups suck.
Yeah. I think so, and I feel like the experience of life and your day-to-day experiences with things, like whether it's clothing or makeup or not even things that are so close, but if they have these stories, and if you understand the beauty of like a certain material, like you said, the warmth of something or the shine of something or the feel of something, and truly experience it as it is, it feels so good and
It
it
feels
feels so
the best.
special.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that with clothes as well. Like for me, like comfort and the way it touches your skin changes the whole thing. Like if you're wearing something uncomfortable, you're not going to feel as confident. You're not going to feel great about the whole experience. But if it's something that you're comfortable in, it just elevates that whole experience altogether.
Uh-huh. And things
Yeah.
stay well, and like they fold well, they wash
Yeah.
well. When you start
Yeah.
going into it, it's like, why am I getting that polyester t-shirt?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So but I want to show the products that you have to everybody on this conversation. But before we get into that, I have one last question about what you think. We have a lot of young brands, entrepreneurs listening into this conversation. What can we do? Maybe a few points to what can we do as end customers in terms of making change that is substantial in some way, but also as young businesses and smaller brands, how can we make some amount of conscious decisions in how we're kind of choosing to run our businesses, keeping in mind the problem of plastic?
Okay, thank you. I love that question. I think consumers, the best thing consumers can do right now, and consumers, is to get educated a bit more on what happens to my personal consumption. I think asking consumers to consume less, or figure out themselves how to send back something to be recycled, like that whole Nespresso thing. Like, no, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous, just unrecyclable. Asking
Yeah.
consumers to keep in their freezer a bag with the capsules and then drive them back. Like, it's a lot to be asking from a consumer. Already, let's get educated. So the next time you're buying something, you can maybe ask yourself, not do I buy this or not? Like, which one can I buy that is a bit better? I think
Hmm.
that's one. Number two, for consumers, I mean, for me, I would like to ask all consumers, like, demand better. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Demand better. Don't don't settle on something. Don't settle on something that isn't good quality, that
Hmm.
isn't giving you a beautiful experience as a consumer, that
Yeah.
isn't. It's not about consuming less. It's about consuming better. It's about eating better. It's about putting something better on your skin. It's about wearing something better. And I think that's the best thing we can be asking for consumers. It's just like, let's demand a bit more respect in terms of the quality. The quality of everything produced in the world has gone down drastically, drastically, drastically. And we all have fun watching vintage movies and things, and we're like, wow, how amazing everything was. Well, yeah, we can do that as well. We have
Yeah.
settled the fact that a company can send us a pretty bad box with something wrapped in plastic when things used to be wrapped in dust bags, or
Yeah.
ask for better.
Yeah.
And it should happen. um, if we all keep asking more and more and more, or gravitating toward what is better. For
Yes.
small brands and companies, I would say, uh, think of where your money is being spent. I think, and a lot of times we think that, oh, going plastic free is going to be more expensive, but actually it's not always.
Hmm.
Some of our products are more expensive, some of them are not. It's just about a choice,
Yeah.
because we'd be surprised the amount of work sometimes you need to make plastic look fancy. So, to make that lip gloss, for example, that expensive black lip gloss, you have to add weight into it because plastic is super light and people want to feel weight. So you add the weight, and then people want shine, so you add what you call metallization, and then you have to have a logo that's done in hot stamping in gold. Then actually, when you add all of these technologies, it's an expensive packaging. You could have done aluminum like I have,
Yeah.
and it's more what has value, and where am I putting the value,
Yeah.
and or can I upcharge a bit for if I'm sending someone a beautiful bag? Can I make a nice dust bag for shipping versus a plastic shipping bag?
Yeah.
Will the consumer experience of receiving it not be worth a bit more? Do consumers want to share on Instagram or TikTok a T-shirt that arrived in a plastic bag, or
Mm-hmm.
will they share more if they get something that is a bit more special?
Yeah.
I think we can think of a lot of things of how to transform materials to our own good, not just to don't do things just to save the planet. Uh,
Yeah.
because it's not going to work in the end. If the
Yeah.
consumer doesn't see the value, unfortunately, uh, that's the world we live in, where everyone answers a survey saying 80% of Gen Z will pay more for a more sustainable product. Wrong. They actually are not. We would have
Yeah.
seen they do. They're going to pay more for a better experience, for a funner experience, and for a TikTokable and Instagrammable moment. So give them that without plastic.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like we as small businesses need to understand and focus on, not saying that we're a small business or you're a small business, but I'm just saying as businesses don't need to I think kind of need to focus our attention on balancing costs as opposed to trying to keep cutting costs as a perspective and trying to kind of like an approach to how we do things. Yeah, very interesting. I love that. Okay, now I want to show the most interesting of the three. Thank you so much, firstly, for sending us
Of course.
these beautiful products. I haven't yet started using them, but I'm so excited too. But I'd love to show this
Okay.
beautiful little thing, which is eyeshadow. Just, oops, look at that. And this, I was so surprised to see this in the box. And it was like this, it's almost as if I was receiving like a tech device. I was like, what is this? What is it supposed to be? And I love the feel of the box and all of that. So, what is this made of?
This is made out of tin, all of it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and you just like here, there's this to hold here, and you just open it.
Yeah. I
And there's
love
here,
that.
there, and tin. What does tin mean? What is made out of tin? Your cans of soup and your cans of beans are made out of tin. So this
Mm.
palette used to be a can of soup and will be again, which is the beauty of it. Because same tin is like infinitely recyclable. Over 80% of tin in the world is in circulation, means it's recycled over and over and over and over. And I love
Mhm.
that. I love that a $1 can of soup could become an expensive piece of makeup, can
Yeah.
become a can of soup, can then become a cat food, can then become like it's just over and over and over. And it's wonderful because it also means luxury is about materials can do different things. And it's all
Yeah.
about design as well and the value you put on it.
I love this. I love this design of it. I love how it looks like almost futuristic. It's just beautiful.
Thank you. And this mirror is not made out of glass. It's also made out of metal with a
Oh,
special coating, which means that this palette is mono-material and 100% recyclable. Because if this was made
wow.
out of glass, it would have made it multi-material and you could not recycle it because how do you separate the glass? So it's metal on metal on
Yeah.
metal. You can also remove this and you are left with a case for your jewelry, for your cards, for pens, for whatever you want, or for a refill later.
Oh my God, that's so cool. That is fantastic. Wow, this is cool.
And even the box, we've made it in a way that all the information is here. So you
Mm-hmm.
are left with this beautiful pink box that has nothing on it, so you can keep it to use it.
Yeah.
And even this here, you can remove, and you're left with.
Yeah, that you can use. I'm
Yeah, because
totally going to
why
be
would you throw
using
it away?
this.
Why would you throw it away? It's a cute box to use. I use it for so many things.
Yeah, it's so cute. And this is made of
The box is made out
the
of FSC cardboard. So
yeah,
honestly, the paper industry is extremely, it's getting better and better and better, honestly, because
yeah,
of regulations in terms of deforestations. So it's in a
yeah,
good. That's Acariciame. That's our lip gloss. That is super fun, and that is 100% aluminum, and you don't lose any of the great experience as a consumer.
yeah. I love the way that it kind of everything about it is nice. Like it's light, it's easy to use, open, close, all of it. Wow. I'm excited.
And zero plastic in it. And same, this used to be a can of Coca-Cola and will be again because it's aluminum.
Wow. Amazing. Congratulations with the brand and congratulations with all that you do. I think it's phenomenal the amount of thought and ideation that has gone behind the brand. Where can our listeners find the brand and how can they kind of follow your story, buy from the brand, all of that?
Super. I mean, we're on all social networks, so you can find us as Aura Makeup on Instagram, on TikTok, on LinkedIn, on Pinterest. You can buy us today if you're in Mexico. We do have a store. We have a really cute store that is as it feels like you've gone into this eyeshadow palette. It's just as
Oh,
colorful. On Alvaro Obregón. We are sold in some boutiques in Mexico City, but we are mostly right now online. And as of last week, we have officially launched in the US. So you can find us, AORA makeup.com. Um,
amazing.
and hopefully, we're going to start getting into some retail distribution. I think I would hope that brands like ours as well need to be supported to grow because we are going counter current.
Mm-hmm.
A lot harder to create and design products like ours because nothing is standard. We're not buying anything off the shelf from any supplier. And
Mm-hmm.
in a world today where like the US government is bringing back plastic straws,
Yeah.
if you want to vote for your money, we're a great way to vote with your money.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. Amazing. Thank you so much, Nour, for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have this conversation with you and spend so much time with you, understanding the problem and understanding what you're building beautifully.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was beautiful to talk with you. Thank you for your thoughtful questions. And if you're just listening, thank you for your smile. Because if you're just listening, you're not seeing how smiley Nivi is, but it makes someone very comfortable to speak.
Oh, I'm glad. That's so nice to hear.